Hi everyone, it's Catharine MacIntosh with Listed, and I am so excited to be here at Royal LePage Signature Realty and with Katie Mills from the Mills team.
Yes.
You are a salesperson with Royal LePage Realty,
I am,
and
yes.
how long have you been in the business?
I've been in the business for 32 years.
Okay. That's
Sorry, I had to count.
That is great. That is great. I was just talking with Sue,
Yes, my sister.
which is very similar. So it's so
Yes.
nice that you're sisters, you're on a team.
Oh, we're
How
so
is that?
It is amazing. I mean, we both grew up in the business. So my dad has had a firm basically since I was born. And so we have great memories of spending time with him and just hearing all about the industry kind of from that back door. And then Sue got into the business. And then 5 years later, I got into the business.
Wow.
And it was just this amazing transfer of knowledge. But I think even much more than that, it was sort of from the heart a transfer of culture and service. And I think just growing up with I just got shivers, but growing up with my dad, I mean, we literally have people at the house for dinner and they talk about how, he talked them out of a property because he knew it wasn't the best thing and that he could find something better. And just that it was so ingrained in us to have that long, big picture vision of always doing the right thing. And I think sometimes in this industry, it can be easy to not always keep that in mind. And so we're just so fortunate that it would never be a question and that's why we've been blessed with repeat and referral business where now we're on, the third generation of a family that have come back and they refer friends. And it's just so rewarding for us to be a part of that process with people.
That's why there's such a natural symbiosis here, because when we created Listed, we wanted to make sure that consumers were getting a real opportunity to work with somebody who is a great agent, and we define that as someone who has repeat and referral business, someone who has their heart in the right place, someone who is giving their clients the information and the options so that they're empowered to make the decision themselves.
Yes.
For whatever they need. So I love that with your father and passing down the business in a way, probably just at a young age, and even when you started, you already had this knowledge base built up.
Absolutely. It was amazing when I actually started. There were so many things I didn't know. But again, sometimes I'd be in a basement in the middle of an offer when we used to do offers at 2 a.m. and there would be 6 of us sitting in the basement. I'd call my dad or Sue. I'm like, okay, well, I said this and they said this, and what should I do next? And I think there's so much to learn in the industry that to have that behind us and know that I could always say in those early years, I don't know, but let me find out.
Yeah.
And that was so important to me that because I was young, I was basically right out of university. And so I just needed that support behind me and
Yeah.
something, I wish we'd had Listed then. But, we used the tools that we had and a lot less technology in those days. But it is amazing. We're so lucky.
Well, you bring up a very interesting point, because one of the key parts of Listed as a technology, it was very important for us to make sure that agents were connecting to agents so that they could cooperate and collaborate and do business together, and that a client was always reaching their own agent.
Absolutely.
Right? It's that relationship that builds, and someone trusts you and you know what they want or need, or actually you discover it together because people don't know what they want and need.
That's the jigsaw puzzle that's fun about it. Absolutely.
Yeah, we found no other tool that really allowed clients and agents to come together and collaborate. So in a lot of ways, it's a collaboration tool as much as it's a transparent data provision.
Yes. Yeah. And I think you were very brilliant in kind of mimicking in some ways many of the great things about the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board. And so I feel like with Listed, it really is keeping it within the family of our agents and clients. So we're not pushing them out to something unrelated.
Yeah.
It really is something that we're using together, and it's still connected with the real estate board. I love that you can pull up a property and see the history of when it's sold. It's just it's such a helpful tool, and it really keeps us in touch with the clients.
Oh, and you can just tap the 3 dots and log into your real estate board because
Absolutely.
it's connected, and your clients can tap the three dots and send it to you and say, I want to see this, or put it in a list.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
instead of trying to be something outside of our industry system, it's really working with it
Yeah.
to enhance it. And I think that's so important. And that's one of my real comfort levels with it, because I also want to support the real estate board. I think it's so important to our industry, and in that collaboration mindset. So I love that Listed isn't taking us away from that, it's supporting it.
Thank you. That was extremely important to us. And
I can tell.
I don't know if you know this, because we're meeting for the first time in
I
person
love
today,
when we've talked.
which is funny. Yeah, we've spoken, but we haven't actually met in person. So this is amazing. So I don't know if you know this about me, but I mean, I am, a technology design, come from an art background. So we artists will go to any length to figure something out and make it work. And very early on, I realized that I wasn't going to be able to make this ultimate collaboration tool if I didn't understand organized real estate. Mm-hmm. And organized real estate can be a thick fog. And I learned very early that we had to do something from within. All these people were trying to do something from without and disrupt it. I think the big disruption is to actually work with the powers that be, because there are actually 550 MLSs across North America. I don't think people know that.
Right.
I think they think the MLS is one thing.
Right.
But it isn't.
Right. And I think in Toronto, or the GTA, now in Ontario, it's so important to keep that together. And it does keep us all working together.
Yeah.
I look at somewhere like New York City, where nobody collaborates, and every office has their own listing, and there is no MLS per se, is my understanding. And I can't imagine working in a system like that.
Yeah.
So I think Listed, again, keeps us connected with the board, with each other, with our clients. And
Absolutely.
I can tell that, and I know because we had some early conversations as you were developing things, that you really have reached out to agents, and to me it feels like a tool that was built with us in mind. And it's not something we have to work around. It's something that really does give us what helps us in our daily business. And I am not a techie person, so thank goodness there are people like you in the world, because I want to turn it on and have it work, and that's all I really need to know. So thank you for doing all the hard work. But it really does provide real-time, helpful tools, and that's what I love about it.
I am so glad. So the thing I think you didn't know that I was going to say is that I actually had to become a realtor.
Really? Oh, yeah. I didn't know. Well, there you go. That's a big effort. Good for you.
I don't sell and I don't practice now, but I thought, in order to figure this out, I actually have to do this.
Yes.
And what was interesting is I personally learned that, okay, so you had your dad and your family and that kind of moral of what to do the best thing for a person. But weirdly, from me, my whole goal was to just understand organized real estate, to see what I could make better. So every client I helped, my intention wasn't that they do something, it was that I learn everything I can about what they needed to help them thrive and get the deal. Mm-hmm. So that just made me realize that when you do the right thing for someone, business comes to you like moths to a flame. Like you can't, and then you're referring and you're busy. So in that first couple of years, I proved that if you had the tools and you had your heart and alignment in the right place with your client, business would just be attracted to you, and it would be no problem. And so then what got to happen with Listed is I saw that success, and I shared it with some agents who started early, and you guys, the Mills team is an early adopter of Listed. So that kind of got the wind in my sails so that I could then take all the places where you would collaborate with clients and double down on them, so that you're just saving time and having a better experience.
Right. And that's my goal with technology. I don't necessarily want to use technology and be involved with it for the sake of using technology.
Yeah.
I want to use it because it's going to save me time, so that I can spend my time face-to-face with our clients, doing the research I need to do. I don't necessarily, it just helps. It saves me time in the things that aren't necessarily what I should be spending my time on.
Okay, I love this. So in terms of using it with your clients, is there anything you do that is kind of a go-to for you, or how you use it?
You know what's so funny? I feel like there are so many tools that I don't even know about. I'd love to spend like the next hour with you just with a tutorial, because I feel like it's so robust and I'm using this much of it, but it's still so helpful. So for me personally, what I do is every time I show a property,
Yep.
I put it into listed and I put a notification on it. It's like one little tap of the button.
Yep.
And then it goes into their personal file.
Yep.
So whenever I'm with them, all I do is one more tap and I see everything that we've seen. And I can have my personal notes in it. I can bring up the photos. And so that in those conversations, when we're in a property and we're looking at, well, remember this house and remember that house. And, you know, this one had the smaller backyard, and all of those conversations that we have to try to figure out value, I have a complete list of everything we've seen right in front of me. And so
Yeah.
I'm not pulling out my file and all kinds of papers. It's just right there. I can see the ones that have sold. I can see the ones that are still available. And that to me is incredibly valuable. The other thing that I find most helpful is the real-time notifications. So that, again, we've seen a property, I've asked for the notification, I'm on the road, and I hear a little ding, and I know that that property has just sold. And
Yep.
then I can communicate immediately with the client. If I'm out with clients for the next 4 hours, it's not until I get back to my computer, and then at 2 a.m, I'm letting them know about it when I sort of have a moment. It's real time. And so I think that helps me do the best job possible for the clients, and it
Yep.
keeps them informed. So again, we're using the real estate board's data and appreciating that, but just forming it in a way that really works in real time.
Yeah, we are helping the real estate board present the data and help its members work efficiently. Yeah.
That's a perfect description.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's interesting is that you can choose if you want a push notification, an email, a text, all three.
Yes.
So you're getting the information how you want, when you want, and the information is updated hourly from the MLS, or whenever they push the data, it comes instantly into our system. And it's not just the TREB system, it's all the systems. We're connected to 48 plus boards. So
Wow.
you might be noticing that, you know, unlisted, your clients aren't missing anything, or
absolutely.
you can't find something on your TREB app, but then all of a sudden you do find it unlisted.
Yeah,
So using the two together in tandem is really great.
I agree. No, super helpful.
Good. Well, you brought up lists, and I'm so happy to hear how you use them and make notes on them. That's fantastic. That already sets you apart because your notes are going to be different than anybody else's notes. So it's not just having the technology, it's having what's said in the note being of value.
Because sometimes we see a lot of properties, so
Yeah.
sometimes you just need that one look to say, "Yep, now you can picture being in the foyer and you remember the rest of it." So that one picture sometimes helps.
So I want to ask you, one of the things that was important to us is that it would be easy to share and safe.
Yes.
So you know that with the real estate board rules, you know, there are certain rules. It's not your agent that makes you sign into Listed or any of these other sites, or
Right.
even the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board. It's the real estate rules that you be signed in with an agent to see certain properties.
Yes.
And so we wanted to make it so that if you shared a list of listings, say you were doing a CMA and you had 4 available and 3 sold, and you
Yes.
shared that list with a client, and they got all excited because perhaps you just helped them win the day with a low price on a purchase or make a record-breaking sale. And they take your list and they post it to Facebook. What happens? You are totally protected. Anyone
See,
who,
I don't even know this. This is so great. I'm learning already.
anyone who taps that list, say your client has, what is the average friend count on Facebook now? 1,000 friends or something? So all 1,000 people who see your list of the success you've had with this person in the list, they will not even need the app. They can just tap the list. It'll open on the web. And if they're not logged in, they'll see the available ones. And if they log in, they'll see the whole list and the sold ones, and they'll get you as their agent.
Nice.
So we wanted a very easy way. You already work by referral and repeat business.
Yes.
But boy, why not make it easy for your clients to refer you? If they want to share a listing with someone and they want to refer you, why not just share the listing and then you go along with it? So that was one of the key
That's
things
great.
for us.
I like that. I'm going to have to start using that.
Yeah. Exactly. When your clients buy or sell, tell them to post it on Facebook.
Absolutely. Now I know.
Well, on that note, we have another feature that I don't know if you've used, which is guess the price, or have any of your clients guess
I've
the price?
seen it, but I haven't done it yet. So this is another new one to try.
It's really great because it's fun, but it also reduces the stress. in trying to determine what's going to happen, right? Because nobody wants to overpay and
Absolutely.
nobody wants to undersell. And there's always this dance between buyers and sellers and meeting in the middle to establish market value. So the guessing of the price is kind of comic relief. Like, am I right? Am I wrong? And they're engaged in it. And they're really educating themselves. Like
Right.
your father would love this.
Absolutely. No, I'm sure he would. And that's really how we do determine value on the property they ultimately want to purchase, is comparing it to the ones we've already seen. So to
Yeah.
have that record of what we all thought at the time is great fun. I like that.
That is a very good point, because you could take the same house with absolutely nothing changed, and a month later it's worth $200,000 more or $200,000 less.
Yes.
And that is the craziness of supply and demand.
Absolutely. It's always changing.
It's always changing. The market is a living thing.
It is.
Do you ever find when you're like out at an event or a party and real estate comes up,
Always.
people,
Does it ever not come
does
up?
it ever not come up? Right.
No, it's amazing. It's and that's part of the fun of being in this industry, is it's something everybody is interested in.
Yeah.
So many people are real estate owners or want to be real estate owners.
Yep.
And everybody's interested in it. So it's something that is always fun to talk about.
Yep.
And I think one of the parts of that I really enjoy is being able to kind of interpret the headlines.
Yes.
Because those conversations usually start with either, oh, did you see that house over there? Or, oh, did you read that article? And so I find the articles are often sort of sensationalized, and
leading.
they often induce fear. And I think part of our role as a real estate professional is to calm that situation down and just tell people what the real facts of the current market are. Because there's always people that are going to buy and sell in any market for a number of, personal and situational reasons.
Yep.
And there isn't necessarily a good or a bad time.
Yeah.
But every market is different. And if we can talk about the facts, then that really puts people's minds at ease, as opposed to, prices are going to fall 40%, or they're going to raise 40%, or how will you ever buy a home? I mean, those things aren't particularly helpful to people, but they're great conversation starters. So
Yeah.
I think if we can start there and have some fun, then and just back it up with what the reality. We're on the streets day in, day out, and really know what's happening. So to be able to share that information with people is something I feel really, really proud about.
Yes, you are living the market daily and over decades. So as it goes up and as it goes down, you know how to react and adjust and have foresight in market conditions.
And not panic.
And not panic. No, entirely. There was an agent who was recently telling me, who's also unlisted, and he was saying that they came out with a seller's condo and decided to have an offer night, even though it's a little bit challenging for condos right now. But what's interesting is he'd been using listed with his seller clients, and they'd been watching the market. And so it was that combination of, when is the market going to be right, but when is it going to be right for us? So it was a personal decision
Absolutely.
along with the condo decision. So what they did is they had the offer night, and on offer night, they got one offer. And the best way to get a higher price is just to at least have two. But they got the one offer, and I was so happy to hear that the clients were so calm and informed, because they and he had been watching what the selling price was and what was going on. And so there was a little bit of back and forth, but they accepted that offer and they were very happy.
Right.
And there was a competing unit that had been sitting on the market for 39 days, basically, because they went up high and were just slowly reducing
Right.
it. Recently, he reconnected with me, and that unit has gone up and gone down and come out and changed agents. And I was just thinking, those poor sellers.
They don't know what to do if they don't have the up-to-date information. They're only going to make decisions that are as good as the information they have.
Yep.
And I think between the agents and listed, we have that opportunity. We're not always giving happy news. It's
Yeah.
much more fun in the good news days. But whatever the news is, we have to honestly portray that so that they can make good decisions. And without that information, they're just going to be left to flounder. And at the end of the day, that doesn't help the clients. It doesn't help the agents. It doesn't help anybody. So I think the more we can work together to provide that information, it makes the whole system work better.
Absolutely. And you reminded me of one of the tenets that we followed. We always wanted consumers to get the best experience. And we thought, how can that happen? Because it's going to come through a realtor. And so, there are a lot of other real estate services, or even if you look on the web, imagine as a consumer that you're going to maybe get some agent suggested who just happen to come up first in Google or have good SEO. That is so scary to me.
Right. Yes.
So, from our business model, we don't make money from, like, an agent can't pay to show up. They can't
Right.
buy an area. You can't, as a consumer, get the wrong person. Our algorithm is based on, if you have listed and you have Katie Mills as your agent, then when you send a listing to someone, they're going to get Katie Mills suggested.
Yes.
And even the receiver of that listing can say, I have Sue Mills, or I have a different agent,
Yes.
and not work with you. So it's always choice and agency.
Absolutely.
So everyone is cared for.
Yes.
And the core thing to me is that the suggestion of an agent is someone who's going to be great. There is not a single agent in the premium agents on listed who a consumer would not be thrilled to get and work with, which I'm really proud of, which is why our goal with agents in premium unlisted is just 20% of the market, because 20% of the great agents do 80% or more of the business.
At least,
I'd even
for
say
sure.
90-10.
Yeah.
So,
You can say that. I probably
Yeah.
should say that. But yeah.
so I'm really happy that the way I get to make sure consumers are cared for is actually through the agents who use listed.
Right.
So-
and
so
and
this
it's
is really
their
great.
clients as well. So your example
Yeah.
of posting it, again, it's their referring their own personal connection of someone they've had a good experience with,
Exactly.
which sort of, is again promoting people that are doing a great job.
Yeah, everyone is happy in the end, and it works for everybody, which is kind of what happens when interests are aligned.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
It's really easy, and it's just funny because even real estate is it's like when you fall in love, you want to go tell your girlfriend or something, and when you find a listing you like, you want to share that. We had an agent the other day. I feel so bad for her.
Oh, no.
She was one of these people like, I don't need listed. My clients use this, and it was some other brokerage app. And she's like, I even use it too. And I said, and she said, no, but I learned my lesson. And I said, tell me the story.
Yeah.
And so her good client had just shared a listing in a condo building with her best friend. And then what ended up happening was, of course, she would have recommended her agent, but she just sent it to her girlfriend during the week. And by the weekend, the condo, she went to see it. She just called the agent on the listing.
Right.
So it wasn't her agent
Right.
because she didn't share listed. She didn't have
Right.
listed.
Right. So there was no connection.
There was no connection. She called this other agent, and
and you have no idea who you're going to get right.
just bought a condo with this random agent from this random brokerage that maybe was a good experience, maybe it wasn't. But it just seemed like a lost opportunity.
Absolutely. And I love how you started that by saying, you're pointing them towards another brokerage.
Yes.
And that's really what typically outside apps beyond the board will do. And that's, I feel, a real differentiator with listed, because you are trying to keep it within the brokerage, within the
Yes.
team, within the agent, where we have just more control over the situation
Yeah.
and our communications with our client, and making sure that everything is done properly.
Yes, and depending on whatever this person's friend experienced, she could have felt confident knowing if she had shared it from listed and got her agent that she would have done a double favor.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's everyone feeling good about it. Yeah.
And I think that's what people want to do, I think, when they've had a great experience. Because unfortunately, sometimes there is the reputation of, the salesperson. But I think when someone's had that real, service experience where they know they've gotten the right advice and they've ended up with the right result, then they do want to share that,
Yep.
that person. So you're giving them an easy way to do that. And it really helps them point their friend in the direction they want to go, and it helps the agent really get that exposure from a happy client.
Exactly. And I don't think a lot of people know this, but we wanted to make sure that on listed, as a consumer, you could always work with your agent.
Yeah.
There's no
pressure.
agent who can't work with their client.
Yeah.
And this was a huge innovation, and it took us a long time to figure out how to do this. But we actually made it so that if a consumer said, I want to work with this agent, they don't even have to pay for listed as long as they have their data agreements in place and they're a bona fide member and they're with the board and their brokerage approves. They will be connected. The agent will have a reduced experience
Right.
in the professional version, but no consumer is not able to be not able to connect with their agent,
That's great.
and at no onus to the agent.
Okay.
So we felt like that was just absolutely the most fair thing for consumers.
Right. Well, again, you're doing the right thing.
Yes.
And I think at the end of the day, if you're not making that decision, maybe this one thing is the best thing for me, but it's the best thing for the consumer.
Yeah.
It always works out in the end that it is the best thing because you're doing the right thing. And that's when people sense that they're being protected. And that's what everybody wants. It's a scary thing, buying and selling real estate. And
It is.
nobody wants to make a mistake. And everybody wants that honest advice of how can they do the best thing for themselves and their family. And Listed really helps make that happen.
I couldn't agree more, and I'm going to give you the opposite perspective as well from
Okay.
the agent perspective,
Yep.
weirdly.
Okay.
I'm going to say selling real estate is a scary prospect. It is, because here you have all this great knowledge and wealth and everything else, and you're gaining the trust of people, right? So by the same token, we need to make sure that agents can have the tools they need at their fingertips, join a full service brokerage,
Absolutely.
and not have to make these decisions to join brokerages that are giving leads or doing these things. So what I love is that any agent, with whatever their brokerage they're with, they can choose the business model of the brokerage they want to join, whether it's a big franchise or whether it's boutique brokerage, whatever suits them in their business and supports them most. Then they use Listed, which is their tool of choice to be on fire and have everything they need. So that then supports the consumer. So it takes that stressful buying decision and what could be a stressful working situation
That's an interesting way to look at it.
and bridges them.
Yeah. Thankfully, I don't find it scary at all. So
No.
I love that I can't quite relate to what you've just said, but
I was actually realizing
it
the way
sounds
that
good.
you grew up with your dad that this would be like, no.
no, I know,
No.
I know.
We just have
I'd
business
love
and
to
we
have this
enjoy
part
it.
of the conversation, but you completely lost me there. Yeah, no,
I'm
I
actually
think,
so glad to hear that. Yes.
No, I find it so calming, and having the information is maybe why, and just
Yeah.
the experience that it's all going to be okay. And
Yes.
just take a deep breath, take a step back. It's all going to work out.
You just saying that made me feel so calm. And I can really see how fortunate your clients are to be
Aw,
working with
thank
you and
you.
the team.
Thank you. Well, that's a two-way street. We're very, very lucky, and being part of the team is fantastic. And just it's like you were saying with Listed, it's the collaboration and the
Yep.
brainstorming and all of those things. And that's how we heard about Listed, because one of our teammates brought it to our attention and said, "Listen, this is something that's really going to help us. Like, let's look into this." And it's been great.
Nice. And speaking of that, I'm going to be meeting with Sarah O'Neill. She's also part of the Mills
She
team.
is, yeah.
And I haven't asked her this yet, but I wanted to ask you, what is your relationship to technology? Do you consider yourself tech savvy or?
I would say I'm a moderately tech savvy user. I'm not one to dive into the background of it.
Yep.
But I love being able to use it in a way that saves us time
Yep.
and is efficient and helps our clients.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I started in the days when we had real estate books that were delivered to the office, and they came out once a week, and you flipped through the pages to find the new listings. I mean, we couldn't have come farther than that in the last few decades. But so technology is amazing, and it really has changed the way we work, and it has sped up the pace. So we have to use technology, and these new technologies coming along that really do facilitate that and
Yeah.
let us do our jobs in the most efficient way possible so that our clients are getting that up-to-date information immediately.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I know that it probably wouldn't be your first choice to do an offer and sign back on your mobile phone, but wouldn't it be nice if you could just open it on your mobile phone and tap a few buttons and without going into a different signing program for this and pulling it down for that and getting into transaction management, if you could do it all from a single place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know if you know this, I'm the
We're often in our car.
Yeah, you are. You're often mobile, right? Unless you're bringing your laptop everywhere and plugging it in.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Phone's even better.
I don't know if you know this, but I volunteer and I'm the vice chair of the interoperability work group. And what that means is even for our competitors, other people that have apps, we work to make data standards so that whatever gets made by any company is interoperable.
Okay.
So that you're empowering choice amongst agents and consumers,
Good.
and all the systems work together.
I think that's brilliant. But again, that's that mindset of doing the right thing.
It's
You're
true.
not so protective that
It's true.
you're afraid of sharing information. And we definitely, as a brokerage and as a team, we're completely aligned with that mindset
Yeah.
of how can we all improve together by sharing.
Yes, in fact, you just reminded me that I really do believe, again, that, the benefit of your clients besides having you is the relationships you have with the other agents you work with.
Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
and our reputations are based on how we've dealt in the past. And there's no doubt every agent is working for the interests and protection of their client. And
Yeah.
we all know the ground rules,
Yeah.
but we all have to work fairly. And so, we come across the same agents and brokerages all the time. And you don't forget how you were dealt with the time before. And if it's fair and everybody's playing, it's a fair fight, then everyone knows where they stand. But it's really important to have that reputation and to be collaborative and work with our own clients' interests at the forefront, but with our colleagues.
Nice. I'm inspired to just ask you this question, which is, like as a technology CEO, people always say, what's your secret sauce? And I think for us, it's the alignment of interest of the people using our product, right? And just making technology support the relationship
Yes.
versus being for technology's sake. But for you as leader in your own industry and in helping your clients, if you had a special sauce or the thing that makes you so special, I partly think it's so much of what comes from your family and the wisdom, and the main overarching thing for me is this sense of calm that I feel in a stressful situation being with you. But what do you think is your...
So interesting. You put me on the spot here. I think it is, I feel like I'm repeating myself saying doing the right thing. And that I don't mean that to be a cliche at all. It's funny, people talk about sales, and I don't feel like I'm in sales. I feel like I'm in a people relationship jigsaw puzzle, finding a treasure hunt pot of gold at the end.
Yeah.
And so I remember my dad saying to me at the beginning that, there'll be some clients you work with for a day and you find them a property or sell their property, and there's some that may be a week, or it might be a month, or it might be years. Or if you do a good job, maybe now's not the right time for them, but if you've done the right thing, they'll come back to you whenever the time is right. So it's just having that big picture vision of that no one deal is ever worth not doing what's right. And that long picture vision of, and I think it's such an emotional decision for people and such an important decision. Real estate's typically the biggest asset that most people have.
Yeah.
And so being able to be that little, we care about, we lose sleep over them, oh my gosh, but we're that little step back that we can give that solid advice. And so I think that's really the secret sauce. If I probably didn't say that very clearly, but it's just having that vision that it's about the people, and the real estate is really the product. It's not about that. It is about that product. But
Actually, I love what you're saying. I actually think that, the result isn't the sale. The result is the goal, the experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And them feeling and knowing that they did the absolute best thing possible for them and for their families. And that, I could sell cars, but I'm not passionate about cars. So I love the product of real estate.
Yeah.
but it's such a personal product that, and because people come back to us, and and we were invited over for dinner, and we meet their families, and they have a baby, and we exactly
Go to
so
their weddings.
it's just so much more than a transaction.
Yeah.
It's a relationship, and the things that allow us to do that as well as we possibly can are that's the technology we adopt.
I love it. One of the things you inspired that's a little bit of the secret sauce is because of the way you do your business, you've afforded yourself the luxury to never have to have anything transact.
Yes.
You're just able to support everyone in the experience they need and the way they need it because you have the luxury of being able to do that,
Right.
whereas others might not. So I think that's kudos to you.
Well, I think, and it's also just being in the business for so long, and my dad being in the business for over 50 years,
Yeah.
because thankfully we have a lot of business to work on. And I think, so we're never in that position. We
Right.
don't need this deal. We want this deal because we want to help the people.
Yep.
But we're never, I think, nobody wants to be sold.
Yep.
And I think the moment the agent wants or needs the deal more than the client, the result is never right. So we have to, and that's one thing I love about real estate is when you're working with people and then the actual closing date, there's a separation there. So you can genuinely do the right job and it's not about getting paid. Because hopefully if you're working hard and you're always doing the right thing and people are referred to you, the money will come. That's sort of almost a byproduct of it. But I love that it doesn't feel like our decisions made on a daily basis.
Absolutely. That was so well said. I just want to say if you are a consumer and you're not an agent and you're watching this, that is how you need to make your decision. It really is. Because at the end of the day, that's how you're going to, it'll make the difference between getting the home or not.
Right.
It's always about you get the most money or save the most money when you have that energy behind your goal.
Right.
Always.
And the client's goals, whatever they are.
Yes.
And it goes back to what we talked about at the very beginning of the stories of my dad and clients who would rave about him 30 years later about the house they talked him out of. I'm like, what is this industry? This is crazy. But because he then always went on to find them the right thing.
Now, it's funny, if we'd had listed all these years, you could pull up the listing from
I
the
know,
clients
I
that your
love
dad
that.
looked at, and you could go to your note and say, oh, yeah, do you still have Barney the cat? You bought this. Whatever you've got on your note, that
It's right
follows
there.
you, and you can kind of see this rolling history of what's happened.
And it's all in one place. That's the
Yeah.
thing that I like too. I mean, there's so many different tools in the industry, but they're not necessarily put together in one nice little package.
That one nice little package is just going to keep growing.
So easy for me to say. You had to develop it all. A nice little package for me to use. Thank you very much.
It is going to just keep growing, and it's going to become more and more useful.
Good.
In short order, we would love you with whatever showing service is connected, whether it's whichever board it's from. Already you can log in through Treb or you can log in through Matrix if you're part of two boards. Same, you could tap and book a showing. You could tap and start a transaction in a transaction management
Amazing.
service. And it'll all just be connected through the one platform to whatever
that.
service you're choosing. And I think that's really the way of the future because we can't, in this modern day with so much agility, be fragmented and
Right.
chopping it up and having
Right. And that's not
disparate-
what the consumer wants or needs.
Exactly.
Because they're not involved in the politics of all of the different apps, for example. They just want to know
Exactly.
what works, what's going to be the best. And as an agent, we want to know what's best to recommend to them so that helps us, be the professional and it helps our communication with them. And
Exactly.
I'm totally aligned that we don't need 10 different things. We need one excellent thing.
Yes,
That
quality.
will service all of us. And that's one thing that I really appreciate with you is,
Thank you.
especially having your real estate background,
Yep.
you're doing this from that vision.
Yes.
And that makes all the difference.
Okay, on this note, just one final thing here. I still don't even think most realtors can tell a consumer why a property might show up 3 different times, the same exact property for sale. Maybe the information's even slightly different. There was a agent in Hamilton who saw 2 instances with his client of the same property, one listed at one price, one listed at another price.
Wow.
And this comes back to the issue of there being so many different MLSs and they're siloed and they're not talking to each other, or if they have a data share, they're putting the listings from both boards on whatever app it is, listed or otherwise, and then you're seeing listings in duplicate and triplicate.
It just takes away from the professionalism of the
really
whole industry.
does. It really does. And so I have exciting news from our conference last week. We have been working with the Real Estate Standards Organization to get a thing called the UPI. It's the Universal Property Identifier. So it wouldn't matter if 50 boards put the property out. There's a single number, kind of works like it does when you have the PIN and you go to Geo Warehouse and whatnot. But it's a universal identifier that this is the property, no matter how many instances of the listing there are. So
That's great.
it's these little things that we spend time and effort and money on to make a quality product that I don't think is always known or recognized, but the consumer really deserves better at this point.
Absolutely. I agree completely. And there's sort of that saying that, there's lots of business to go around. And I think you have to have that mindset. And that, again, comes back to doing the right thing. And what you're trying to do is the right thing.
Yeah. We want to connect people to people who are doing the right thing. And I think it can't be said enough that if you don't know about Listed and you're on some other app, and you're randomly getting connected to an agent that's perhaps in a kind of lead generation type platform, and you don't even know it, it's really challenging. So I hope that as people discover Listed and your clients use it and share it, and you use it and share it, it's proliferating through network effects.
Absolutely.
You to the world and the other great agents that are on it. So thank you.
And the other thing that I like too, being agent-based, is it's something we can bring to our clients.
Yes.
You mentioned Sarah O'Neill from our team earlier, and I thought it was brilliant how she let us know about it because she started herself. So let alone with our clients, she didn't want to recommend something to us on the team that she didn't know was a great product. So she used it herself, and then she came to us and said, guys, I found this amazing app, and I really think it will help us, and I'm excited about it, so let's try it out.
Yep.
So I think that is the way that Listed will and is being spread.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great tool, and again, the real time, there's nothing worse than a client saying, oh, this property sold, and we haven't necessarily been notified by it.
Yeah.
Whereas Listed keeps us in the loop as much as our clients, which is great, ahead of our clients.
That is so fantastic. So before we wrap up, thank you so much for being here. Is there anything you wanted to say or add or ask or comment on?
Just thank you. I mean, you've created something amazing that is really helping us, and it's easy to use. That's important for someone like me. There's not a huge learning curve, but I feel like I'm excited because there's so much that I know I'm not even doing with it. So I just think it's going to get better and better, and I feel from my interactions with you that you're not going to rest about this. You're going to keep improving it and
Forever.
keep working.
Yeah.
And I love that because it's a changing industry. The market changes, our needs change.
Yep.
And so I think it's really important to be able to stay with a quality product, but have it updated as we go.
Yes, you have my commitment, persistence, and determination.
That I know about you. I've seen it.
Best product for realtors.
Excellent. Well, thank you.
Thank you.